Let us understand how to set up and use SQL Workbench. Let us see the details why we should be using tools like SQL Workbench. SQL Workbench is nothing but an IDE. IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. When it comes to database CLIs such as PSQL for Postgres, MySQL, etc., they can be cumbersome for those who are not comfortable with command line interfaces. Database IDEs such as SQL Workbench will provide required features to run queries against the databases without worrying too much about underlying data dictionaries to get the metadata of the tables against which we are interacting. SQL Workbench provides required features to review databases objects without writing queries or running database specific commands. Also, database IDEs provide capabilities to preserve the scripts we develop so that we can come back to those scripts and reuse them in future without typing any queries or commands. In short, database IDEs such as SQL Workbench improves our productivity as developers, as testers, etc. When it comes to alternative IDEs, there are several of them which are quite popular. Toad for almost all the relational databases, SQL Developer which is very popular in Oracle world, MySQL Workbench and many others. Let's understand how to install SQL Workbench. Here are the instructions. You just have to download SQL Workbench. Typically it is a zip file. You just have to unzip and launch. We can quickly search by opening another tab by saying SQL Workbench. It will actually provide us the link like this. We can click on this. This is the one which actually says current stable version, and hence we can click on this, and then you can scroll down and you can see there are three different links here. One is generic package for all systems including all optional libraries, generic package for all systems without support for importing or exporting Excel or OpenOffice spreadsheets, and then source code. You can choose one of these two and then you should be able to open and integrate with the database you want to connect to. Let me click on this, which will take care of the downloading of this zip file. It is nothing but a zip file. You can see the extension here. It will just take few seconds. Once it is downloaded, we can click on this to go to the file. You can see here it is still downloading. We have to wait until the download is done. Once the download is done, you just have to double click it to unzip if you are using Mac. If you are using Windows, probably you might have to use some unzipper to unzip the file. With Mac, it is automatically unzipped. We don't even need to do anything. The default behavior is the zip files will be unzipped after downloading is done. You can expand and see what all are there in this. There is a jar file, there is a shell script. You should be able to leverage this jar file to launch. However, I want to rename this to complete the setup process by saying SQL Workbench. Also in Mac, all the applications are typically under applications folder. I want to move this to applications folder. Once it is moved to applications folder, we can actually go here, expand this SQL Workbench, and then we should be able to say control and double click or control and click, and then you can say open with jar launcher. Then you have to say open. If you double click on jar, it might say that it is developed by unauthorized developer, and hence it will not show the option to open. To see the option to open, you have to use control and click. Now SQL Workbench is set up on this machine and we are able to launch it. However, it is of no use if we cannot connect to a database. We will see how to connect to the database as part of the next topic. Before going there, to connect to any type of database, I want to consolidate all the drivers in one folder. Within the SQL Workbench itself, I want to create a new folder called as drivers, and going forward, whenever I want to connect to a particular database, I will copy the jar files to this location, and from there I will be able to configure my connection URLs, and then I should be able to connect to the databases which I am targeting to.